Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel of Books and Soul. So in this video, I would like to share with you some of the book series that I would like to read and get to as soon as I can. There's a lot of series that I'm very excited to read one day, but in this video, I want to share with you five of the top ones that I want to read in the nearest future. So I will be going in no particular order, definitely not based on preference or anything of that sort. The first book series that sounds very intriguing to me and also has had numerous wonderful opinions and reviews is the Mistborn Trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. As I understand, the Mistborn Trilogy is part of a greater work by Brandon Sanderson. He's one of the most prominent fantasy writers now. He writes a lot. His books are huge. He also writes pretty quickly. The universe or the world that the Mistborn Trilogy takes place in is now huge, and there's other books as well. So I know this is just the beginning, but definitely what I've heard is that this is the best place to start with Sanderson if you're just getting into his books. I don't know much. I don't know much about these books. I haven't read them, but Sanderson is great at world building and at creating magic systems. So this is something I definitely look forward to. I think it's very creative, and I kind of want to see what he's come up with. But also, just to give you an idea of what this book or what this trilogy is about, is there's this enticing question on the cover of the book, which is, "What if the Dark Lord won?" It's an epic fantasy, and this is what the description says. "The mists rule the night, the Lord Ruler owns the world. For 1,000 years, the ash fell. For 1,000 years, the Ska slaved in misery and lived in fear. For 1,000 years, the Lord Ruler reigned with absolute power and ultimate terror, divinely invincible. Every attempted revolt has failed miserably. Yet somehow, hope survives. A new kind of uprising is being planned, one that depends on the cunning of a brilliant criminal mastermind and the courage of an unlikely heroine, a Ska street urchin who must learn to master elemency, the power of a Mistborn. What if the prophesized hero had failed to defeat the Dark Lord? The answer will be found in the Mistborn Trilogy, a saga of surprises that begins here." So this sounds really cool. I think it will be definitely interesting for the reasons that I mentioned. So the magic system, kind of some of the tropes that are present in fantasy. So an unlikely heroine, an unlikely hero, and obviously the world building and the universe seems very interesting. Of course, there's a map at the beginning, things that always get me super excited to get into fantasy. So you got to decipher the new world and kind of see what's going on. So this is the Mistborn Trilogy. If you've already read it, let me know what you think. But I'm super excited to get into those and start getting into Brandon Sanderson's work, which I hear is great. The second series that I wanted to talk to you about is my beloved book series that I've actually read already. I haven't reached the very end. I think I've read 6 out of the 8 books that are there. It's the Anne of Green Gables series. Now, after all these years, I did feel like I want to get back to this series, come back to it, and read it actually in the original language, so in English and not in Polish, like I did as a little girl. The book series of Anne of Green Gables is one of the most heartwarming and beautiful stories ever. The series is really beautiful in the way it follows Anne Shirley, the protagonist, from being a little girl who lives in her imagined world, who's not loved by anyone, and finally gets adopted by a family, by a brother and a sister, by mistake, actually. And it's beautiful to see how in every single one of the books she grows as a person. She kind of goes through the various phases of a young girl's life. She begins as this kind of lost little girl. She starts going to school. She becomes an intelligent and bright girl who then teaches at a school, and kind of her path continues to university. First encounters with love, with friendship, with many adventures that are always very human and very relatable to a reader even now. Montgomery's descriptions of nature and of the setting of the books is exceptional. It's really wonderful. She's a great writer, and she takes the reader into this very regular, everyday, kind of average life, simple life of this girl and the people she loves, the friends she has, and the family she has. And she turns it into something magical, into something very, very deep and profound, and really very wise in many of the situations that Anne finds herself in. So yes, so I'm excited to read this series. I've read the first two already. I'm now on the third book in the series. I'm slowly making my way through the 8 books, so I will definitely keep you updated on the channel on how this series is going. But so far it's beautiful, wonderful. I'm remembering why I love these books so much, and so definitely on the top of my list, and now I'm making my way through the series. So Anne of Green Gables series by Lucy Maud Montgomery. Next series that I would like to read is that of The Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. So this book I know is going to be quite a lot, considering the amount of characters that are present in this epic work of George Martin. It will be a lot also because, from what I know, the world is extensive. The world building is also amazing. The lore and the history of the world that Martin has created is incredible. I've just started, so I'm finishing the first book in the series, so the Game of Thrones, A Game of Thrones, and already there you get a taste of just how intricate this book is, just how many little little dots need to connect, and how many details that maybe you don't think are so important actually are or become important. Characters that maybe you think are minor suddenly become much more important. Martin's style of writing is really very interesting, and also his idea to use different character points of view is very interesting. So each chapter is a different character that tells the story from their point of view. It's very fascinating because you have your main characters, your point of view characters can be a little girl like Arya, or can be older, more mature men like Ned, so Eddard Stark. And obviously there's a lot of political intrigue in the books, and it's very interesting. The characters are done very well. They're very captivating and interesting. Some you really, really hate, some you really, really love, and some you just you don't know how you feel about them just yet, but maybe you're hoping that one day things will become a little bit more clear as to where they stand. So the third series on my list is A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. I know I'm giving you fantasy recommendations a lot, and it's because I am a big fan, and a lot of the series that I own are fantasy, but I do have a series that I'm very excited to read. It's a very long series. I think it's like 13 or 12 books in total, and that is the Poldark series by Winston Graham. So the story is very interesting. So it's historical fiction. So at the first book, we're at the end of the 18th century. So it's around the time of the American Revolution. And as the story progresses, you kind of get closer to the French Revolution. You hear about it from England. This book takes place in Cornwall, in a mining district, where you have poor families of miners, and kind of their stories that develop, and that you get to learn, and kind of you participate in the life of that district, or of those cities, of those towns around this mining district. But really the main story is the Poldark family. There's kind of two branches of the Poldark family, one that's more wealthy, bit better off than the other one. It's two brothers, as one of the brothers passes away at the very beginning of the book. His son comes back from fighting in the American Revolution. His name is Ross, as the first book mentions, and he is the one who now has to decide if he should inherit the estate or take into possession and kind of bring back to life the estate of his father. There's many difficulties, things that make him doubt if he should do that. One of them being kind of his love story, which it doesn't go the way he planned. But in the end, Russ decides that he wants to revive his father's estate, and so kind of the story goes from there. So far I've read only the first book, and it's really, really cool in the way it shows you the life of the rich Poldark families, the owners of the land. But then also goes down into like the everyday kind of simple life, and also dramatic stories of the miners of that region, and kind of how the two stories of the rich and the poor intertwine, all amidst political and historical turmoil of the revolutions. A bit of a long series, because 13 books is quite a commitment, but I think definitely will be worth it, and I will obviously keep you guys posted. Last but not least, of course, there needed to be a Polish series on here, so it's a Polish series that's actually been translated, and it is Wiedźmin, or The Witcher. So this series is one of the best and most known, most famous Polish fantasy series. I don't know much about it. All I know is that there's about 9 books, if I'm not mistaken, or 8 books in the series, and they all follow the Witcher, Geralt, who is, as I understand, a monster slayer. Again, Andrzej Sapkowski, who's the author of the book, has created a new world. So I always admire authors who are able to do this, where they go big on world building and create a completely new place. That's probably one of my favorite things about fantasy, is their ability to do this. And so they kind of transport you to a new universe, a new place. And so we're in this world, which I understand is pretty dark and filled with monsters. The opinions I've heard about this book series is that it's really, really good. Some of my cousins who've read it numerous times say that really the characters are wonderful. They're very well developed, interesting. They're not exactly white, not exactly black, more gray in their sense of morality. But this makes them interesting. I know that the story, the plot is very interesting, and there's a lot of twists and unexpected things that happen in the book. So I'm very excited to read this series. So The Witcher, Wiedźmin by Andrzej Sapkowski. Okay, so that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe to my channel. If you read any of these series, let me know what you thought about them. If you enjoyed them at all, I'll be happy to read that in your comments. And I hope to see you all very soon. Bye!